Welcome to the Pardes channel. Today we explain Exodus chapter 35 in a clear and simple way, step by step. We are embarking on an absolutely magnificent journey today, taking a deep, focused look at a truly pivotal moment in the biblical narrative. We're going to break down this ancient text verse by verse, uncovering exactly what's happening, who's involved, and why it all matters. Our mission today is perfectly defined. We are going to take our time. We definitely won't be rushing past the details. By methodically moving through the text, we'll build a rock-solid, straightforward understanding of this chapter based solely on its simple, clear meaning. We're going to examine the literal actions, the specific raw materials requested, and the precise timeline of events without getting bogged down in complicated symbolism. This is all about understanding the text exactly as it's written. Here's our roadmap for today. First, context and the Sabbath. Second, the call for tabernacle offerings. Third, the people's willing response. Fourth, God empowers the artisans. Fifth, key ideas and clarifications. And finally, lessons and final recap. Let's get right to it. Part 1, Context and the Sabbath. This covers verses 1 through 3. Okay, so to really grasp this chapter, we first have to look at exactly where we are in the timeline. Back in month 1, the Israelites experienced the massive exodus from Egypt. By month 3, they'd arrived at Mount Sinai, ready to receive the law. But then, absolute tragedy struck in month 4, the incident of the golden calf. While Moses was up on the mountain, the people strayed, they broke their covenant, and they fell into idolatry. The community was totally fractured, facing severe consequences and a potential complete break in their relationship with God. Now, Moses has just come back down from the mountain after pleading for their forgiveness. He assembles the entire Israelite congregation. Just imagine hundreds of thousands of people standing together in the desert, waiting in this tense anticipation to hear what happens next. This is a moment of profound renewal. They've been granted a second chance, and they are about to rebuild their relationship with God through an ultimate, massive, collaborative project. But before any new project begins, Moses issues a strict warning. Verse 2 says, 6 days shall work be done, but on the 7th day there shall be to you a holy day, a Sabbath of solemn rest to the Lord. And then verse 3 adds a very specific physical detail. Do not light a fire in any of your dwellings on the Sabbath day. Think about what lighting a fire actually meant in an ancient desert camp. It wasn't just flipping a switch or turning a dial on a stove. Gathering kindling, striking flint, tending flames, that was arduous, time-consuming physical labor essential for cooking, warmth, and crafting. By prohibiting even this foundational act of survival and industry, Moses is creating an absolute boundary. Before they can build a physical sanctuary for God, they have to build a sanctuary in time. Moses is telling them that no matter how important or holy the construction of the tabernacle is going to be, the strict command to rest simply cannot be violated. Moving right along to part 2, call for tabernacle offerings. We'll be looking at verses 4 through 19 here. Okay, let's dive into this. Moses now relays God's massive request for the materials needed to build the tabernacle, which is essentially going to be a portable sanctuary. Verses 4 through 9 detail an incredibly specific list of raw, physical materials. We're talking precious metals, gold, silver, and bronze, which obviously require complex mining and smelting. He asks for luxurious textiles, fine linen, and yarn dyed in blue, purple, and scarlet. In the ancient world, producing these colors, especially the scarlet and royal purple, required extracting rare dyes from sea snails or specific insects. It made them incredibly valuable. He asks for rugged, durable materials, goat hair for weaving heavy tent cloth, ram skins dyed red, and the hides of sea cows or seal skins to create waterproof outer layers against the harsh desert elements. He requests acacia wood, which is a highly dense, extremely durable wood native to the desert, perfect for surviving constant transport. He even asks for pressed olive oil for the lamps, sweet spices for the incense, and precious onyx stones and gems to be mounted on the priest's garments. But here's the kicker. The most vital part of this immense request is that it must only come from whosoever is of a willing heart. It is an entirely voluntary invitation. So once these raw materials are gathered, what exactly are they going to build? Well, verses 10 through 19 give us the master blueprint outlining the sacred items they have to construct. The tabernacle tent itself, complete with its heavy wooden frames, structural crossbars, metal clasps, and layered cloth coverings to protect the interior. They've got to craft the Ark of the Testimony, the central wooden chest overlaid with pure gold that will actually hold the tablets of the law, along with its carrying poles and the solid gold atonement cover. They need to build a specialized wooden table for the bread of the presence and forge a massive, intricate lampstand hammered out of pure gold to provide constant light inside the tent. Furthermore, they're commanded to build the altar of incense for the inner sanctuary and the much larger bronze altar of burnt offering for the outdoor courtyard, complete with all its bronze utensils and the surrounding courtyard curtains. And finally, they need to intricately weave the sacred garments, the detailed, gem-studded clothing that Aaron the priest and his sons will wear while performing their duties. As you can see, this is a multi-layered architectural and artistic endeavor, requiring immense precision. That brings us to part 3, the people's willing response. This covers verses 20 through 29. So Moses has laid out the grand vision and this really daunting list of requirements. How does the community, fresh off the absolute failure of the golden calf, react to this overwhelming call? Well, to understand their response, we need to understand a crucial Hebrew concept presented right here in the text. The people brought a free will offering, or in Hebrew, a nedavah. The text repeatedly emphasizes that everyone whose heart moved him and whose spirit made him willing came forward. This wasn't a mandatory collection. No one was taxed, no one was forced, and there was absolutely no fixed quota per person. The giving was entirely driven by internal willingness, passion, and a deep desire to contribute to the holy work. And this brilliantly illustrates exactly how unified they were. The sheer scale of their response is staggering. Verses 22 through 29 break down exactly who brought what. First, men and women came together, physically taking off their own personal gold jewelry, their brooches, earrings, rings, and ornaments, and handing them over as a wave offering to God. Then the skilled women stepped up. They didn't just bring raw materials, they brought their active labor. They spun the blue, purple, and scarlet yarn and the rough goat hair with their very own hands, contributing countless hours of meticulous weaving. Finally, the leaders of the tribes, the individuals who naturally had access to the rarest and most expensive items, brought the precious onyx stones, the very gems for the priestly breastpiece, the specialized spices for the incense, and the pure olive oil. Every single tier of society found a specific, literal way to participate. It was a total, joyful involvement of the entire camp. Next up, part 4, God empowers the artisans, looking at verses 30 through 35. Now, you can have a literal mountain of gold, silver, wood, and yarn, but raw materials don't just assemble themselves into a sanctuary. You need master craftsmen and visionary leaders. Moses announces these specific individuals chosen by God to lead this immense construction. First, Moses announces Bezalel from the prominent royal tribe of Judah. The text states God has filled him with the Spirit of God, giving him absolute mastery in all metal, wood, and stone crafts. Bezalel is the chief architect, cutting gems and casting gold. But Bezalel isn't working alone. God specifically appoints Aholiab from the tribe of Dan to assist him. Now, Dan was traditionally considered one of the lesser, more humble tribes, the rear guard of the camp. Yet here they are, Judah and Dan, working side by side. The highest and the lowest tribes are completely united in holy work. While Bezalel handles the heavy materials, Aholiab is specifically highlighted for his ability to execute master designs in embroidery, weaving the fine linen, and colored yarns. This builds into a really perfect model of divine empowerment. Verses 30 to 35 detail a practical, step-by-step process of how God equips these artisans. Step 1, they are called by name by God. The appointment is deeply personal and very specific. Step 2, they are filled with the Spirit of God. Their talent isn't just natural aptitude, it's divinely inspired for this exact moment. Step 3, they are given highly specific technical skills and knowledge, ranging from artistic design to structural metalworking and intricate weaving. But step 4 is perhaps the absolutely most vital aspect of their leadership. God explicitly grants both of them the ability to teach others. They aren't meant to hoard their skills or do all the physical labor themselves. They are instructed to share their knowledge, elevating and directing the rest of the skilled workers in the camp to actually complete the massive project. All right, part 5, key ideas and clarifications, where we're just deepening our understanding a bit. So we've completed our chronological walkthrough of the chapter. But before we finish, let's clarify a few specific terms, keeping strictly to the simple, straightforward meaning of the text, the Peshat. Throughout this chapter, the text uses a very distinct phrase to describe the workers. It calls them wise-hearted, or hacham lev in Hebrew. In many English translations, it simply says skilled, but wise-hearted carries much more weight. In the context of Exodus 35, true skill is not merely what your hands can physically accomplish, it's about the intention resting within your heart. A wise-hearted person is someone who possesses both the technical proficiency to weave coarse yarn or hammer solid gold and the inner spiritual wisdom to channel that physical labor toward a holy, higher purpose.
Another really profound clarification lies in the very structure of this chapter's text. There is a massive contrast placed right at the beginning. In verses 1 to 3, we have the Sabbath Command, which is an absolute strict cessation of all creative labor. But then immediately following that, in verses 4 to 35, we have the Tabernacle Command, which is an intensive call for highly skilled, non-stop creative labor. By placing these two opposing commands immediately next to each other, the text establishes a fundamental psychological and spiritual reality. Human beings need a hard stop. The command to stop working actually frames and protects the command to start building. It teaches us that you can only sustain truly meaningful holy work if you know exactly when to step away and rest.
Finally, Part 6, Lessons and Final Recap. What do we actually learn here? So what does this all mean? What practical life lessons can we take away from Exodus chapter 35 today? How do these ancient instructions about gathering literal raw materials and weaving yarn apply to our modern lives and our own personal development? Well, the text actually offers incredibly practical lessons. First, prioritize rest and establish firm boundaries before undertaking massive work. Just as Moses enforced the Sabbath before the massive tabernacle project began, we have to prioritize our own Sabbath mindset, taking dedicated time to disconnect and rest before we burn out on our own life projects. Second, give generously without waiting to be forced. The willing heart of the Israelites shows us that true lasting community is built on voluntary generosity. When it comes to modern volunteerism or building up our own neighborhoods, contributing out of genuine desire rather than obligation creates a much stronger foundation. And third, recognize that your unique skills are gifts meant for a higher purpose. Whether you're an artist, a builder, a manager, or a teacher, those abilities can be used to elevate the people around you, just like Bezaleel and Oholiab taught the Israelites. So the crucial point is really unity. It took just one fully unified community bringing their individual, distinct gifts together to manifest this incredible vision. Every single person, no matter what raw materials they had or what their specific skill level was, contributed to making the one sanctuary a physical reality. Let's lock in our understanding with a quick, structured recap of the entire chronological flow of Exodus chapter 35. Step 1. Moses gathers the entire congregation and enforces the absolute boundary of the Sabbath rest. Step 2. Moses delivers God's call for specific, voluntary raw materials to build the physical tabernacle. Step 3. The people respond with incredible enthusiasm, joyfully bringing overwhelming free will offerings of gold, yarn, and labor. And Step 4. God officially appoints Bezaleel and Oholiab, filling them with the spirit, the specific skills, and the wisdom to lead the construction and teach the others. I want to leave you with this final provocative thought directly from verse 29. Every man and woman whose heart made them willing to bring for all the work. You know, the tabernacle wasn't built by a magic miracle falling from the sky. It was built because the people's hearts were willing to physically contribute. It challenges us to ask ourselves, what are we truly willing to contribute to our own communities today? Thank you for learning with us. If this helped you understand the chapter better, like, subscribe, and join us for the next chapter.